Hello and welcome to my Yin Yoga class. For this yoga class you may need a couple of blocks or some pillows to assist you during the poses today. So take a moment and find a comfortable position lying on your back. You can have the knees bent or the legs straight. If you're having the legs straight, we'll draw one leg into the chest and then the other, just to help relax the lower back. Give the knees a good hug and gently rock from side to side, giving your back a good massage. We can circle the knees in one direction and then gently changing direction, making the circles as big or as small as feels comfortable. And during this class today, as Yin Yoga is very slow, if you want to put some socks on or a jumper, just check that you're warm enough throughout the class and then find a comfortable position. We'll rest the hands on the abdomen and take a few slow deep breaths. So inhale, expand the lungs. And exhale, very gently lower. Inhale again, try and encourage the breath into the abdomen. And exhale, very gently lower. One more, inhale, expanding the lungs, pushing the air into the abdomen. And then exhale, gently lower. So now this time we're going to take 3 breaths and try and make the exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. So inhale and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale again, 1, 2, 3, and exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now allow your breath to follow its natural rhythm. And during the class today, any time that your mind starts to wander, draw your attention back to the breath. And take 2 or 3 really slow, deep breaths in. And try and make the exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. Giving your mind something to focus on. And encouraging the body to soften and to relax. So always remember to listen to your own body in the class, coming out of any posture if you need to. Remember to only work as deep as feels comfortable. So we'll start to wake up the body, gently moving your fingers and your toes, and then we'll draw the knees into the chest on your exhale. Give them a good hug and rock gently from side to side, massaging the back once more, and maybe making small circles in one direction and then gently changing the other direction. So now give the knees one final hug, and then when you're ready, rock completely onto your right hand side. Just pause for a moment and then very gently come up. We'll find a sitting position. So you're going to need both blocks, or you can use a pile of books. Now we're going to come into supported wide squat. So sitting on the blocks, having the toes out, the heels in. So if your heels don't touch the ground, you can put a rolled up mat, a rolled up towel or a pillow underneath the heels. The arms on the inside of the legs. Just pausing here and gently closing the eyes. So in today's class, we're going to spend roughly about 3 minutes in each pose. So if you need to come out at any time, always listen to your own body. So to start with in this pose, take 3 slow, deep breaths. Really try and expand the lungs in all directions. And as you exhale, try and make your exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. And if you're a beginner, sometimes it helps to count the breath on the inhale and the exhale, just for 2 or 3 breaths. And now allowing your breath to follow its natural rhythm, becoming soft. Now observe in your physical body, where do you feel the stretch? Do you feel a stretch on the inside of the hips, the outside of the hips? So just observing. So if the mind starts to wander, keep drawing your attention back to the physical body. Observing if it's equal from one side to the other. So we're coming into the last few breaths, the last half a minute. Just observe if you'd like to stay as you are, if you'd like to come out of the pose, or if you'd like to work deeper, pushing the palms together. So the last few breaths. Focus on slowing both the inhale and the exhale as much as you can. So each of the poses that we're going to practice today, for the last minute, if you'd like to come out of the pose and rest, always make sure that you listen to your own body and only do what feels right. So now the last 1 or 2 breaths before we come out of the pose. Expanding the lungs in all directions. You'll very softly start to blink the eyes open. Gently removing the hands, support the outside of the knees and heel toe the feet in. And we'll come off of the blocks very gently. And we'll rock the knees from side to side, so very slowly, just relaxing the legs, relaxing the inside of the legs and the hips. And we'll come into diamond pose, so drawing the soles of the feet together, the feet 2 hand lengths away. I'm going to turn to the side because it's easier to see. So we can rest on different heights of the block, whatever feels comfortable on your back and your hips, so always listening to your own body. So we'll take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, very gently rounding the back, allowing the head just to lower. You can use a block to support your head or a couple of blocks. And then again we'll pause here. So as always, starting in this pose now by taking maybe 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Try and expand the lungs in all directions. And try and make your exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. And as the back is rounded, try and really expand the breath into the back of the body. Try and stretch the tiny intercostal muscles between the ribs. And encourage not only the back, but the whole of the body to soften and to relax. And on the end of your 3rd exhale, allowing your breath to follow its natural rhythm. And then observing where you feel the stretch. Do you feel a stretch on the inside of the legs, the inside or the outside of the hips, or maybe somewhere in the back? Is the stretch equal from one side of the body to the other? So remember never to criticize, to always be present. Just observing how the body is in this moment. With Yin Yoga, often the slower that you go into a pose, the more the body will soften and relax with time and patience. So again, as we come into the last minute, just observe how you're feeling. Are you ready to come up out of the pose? If you are, curling the back and keeping the chin tucked under. You can stay as you are if this feels comfortable. Or you can go deeper only if it feels right. Just a few more slow breaths. Encourage both the mind and the physical body to soften and to relax. The last 1 or 2 breaths. On your next breath, and we'll slide the hands now underneath you, keeping the back rounded and the chin tucked under. Support the weight of the body, slowly come up. Last thing is your head. And then we'll support the outside of the knees and rock the knees from side to side. Relaxing the back, relaxing the legs. And again, I'll just turn to the side, just so I'm in the same position as you. And we'll straighten the legs. So come to sit on a pillow if you prefer, or you can sit on the floor to come into straddle. So straightening the legs and pushing the heels away. So I'll start for the first minute of this pose just sitting up nice and straight. You can have the hands either in front of the body or either side of the hips. Whatever feels comfortable. So you want the toes pointing up towards the ceiling. Gently close the eyes. Or focus your attention on your physical body. We'll start to take 2 or 3 slow breaths in your own time. So trying to expand the lungs in all directions. And exhaling, making the exhale longer and slower than your inhale. And encouraging the whole of your body to soften and to completely relax. So if you can stay here if you like, or you can slightly come deeper, supporting your body on some blocks or some pillows. And so remembering in Yin Yoga, the slower that you go, the more the body will soften and relax as we're holding these yoga poses for longer than we would in an active yoga practice. So allowing the breath now to follow its own rhythm and observe what you feel. Do you feel a stretch on the inside of the legs, around the hips, or around the back? If this is already getting too much for you, you can come back up to sitting, or you can bring some pillows or some blocks underneath your knees and practice with the knees very slightly bent to release the stretch on the back of the hamstrings. Or you can bring your feet closer together or not as wide. So always listening to your own body and only doing what feels comfortable. Now the last 1 or 2 breaths in this pose. So encourage the whole of the body to soften and to relax with the breath. breathing in and out just through the nose. And then when you're ready, you'll very slowly start to come up, removing the blocks. We'll bend the left leg and draw the heel towards you. We'll come into another forward fold, so keeping both hips on the ground. We'll take a breath in, and as you exhale, coming into a forward fold, so using the blocks, if you prefer, at any height, and then pausing here. So observing, how is the physical body? How is the breath? And how is the mind? So as always, starting in this pose with 3 slow deep breaths, encouraging the exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. Try and expand the lungs in all directions. And in your mind, tell yourself to relax. And now draw your attention to your physical body, just observing where you feel this stretch. Do you feel a stretch in the same place as the previous yoga pose, with both legs straight? Is it more relaxing with one leg bent, or more intense? So we only really want to feel a gentle stretch. You shouldn't feel any pain or discomfort. So only going as deep as feels comfortable. Be aware if your mind starts to wander, and always allowing it to come back to the breath. And as we're coming into the last minute, just observe how you feel. Would you like to stay as you are? Is it starting to get too much for you? Would you like to come out of the pose and pause for a moment? Or do you feel you naturally deepen? So remembering, with everything in life, the more you practice, the more natural and relaxing it will become. So try not to compare yourself to previous times you may have practiced. Just be present. Last 1 or 2 breaths. On your next breath in, now slowly walking the hands back up towards you, support the outside of the leg. Draw the leg in, we'll lean back just to relax the back for a moment, and support the outside of the other leg. We'll come into half Gomukhasana, or half shoelace pose. If it feels comfortable, you can come into full shoelace pose, just checking that you're not sitting on the heels, and the spine nice and tall. So whichever of the two feel more comfortable, and then close the eyes. And to continue with our focus on the breath in your own time, take 3 slow deep breaths. So encouraging the whole of the body to soften and to relax with the breath, making the exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. And on the end of your 3rd exhale, to distract your mind once more from thoughts and conversations, now draw your attention to the physical body. Observe where you feel this stretch. Do you feel a stretch equally in both hips? Or is there more of a stretch in one hip than the other? So how is the mind now? Is it off wandering, thinking of thoughts of the past, of the future? Every time that you're aware that the mind is wandering, just take a moment to acknowledge it. Always be kind to yourself. Thank yourself for noticing. And then bring your attention back either to the physical body where you feel the stretch, or to the breath. And take a few more slow, deep breaths in your own time. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. You're coming into the last minute, just observing how you feel. So staying here, coming out of the pose by supporting the ankle and the knee if you're ready to come out, or going deeper only if it feels comfortable. By going deeper, you can make it into a very gentle forward fold by resting your hands on the floor or bringing your forearms to rest on the knees. So the last few breaths, really try and expand the lungs in all directions. Encourage the whole of the body to soften and to completely relax. Now checking that you have space or support your right leg. If you had your right leg bent, straighten it. I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see. You can stay where you are or come into a spinal twist. So now hugging, you would be doing the opposite leg to the opposite arm and twisting and looking over your shoulder. So again, I'm doing the opposite of you because I was facing you, not to confuse you. So you will have the right leg straight and the left leg bent, and you're hugging with your right arm and looking over your left shoulder. And in your own time, take 3 slow, deep breaths. Try and expand the lungs in all directions, especially with the torso twisted. Try and encourage the last few breaths, the tiny intercostal muscles between the ribs, a shorter amount in this yoga pose with the breath. So encourage the whole of the body to soften and to relax. The last few breaths. Encourage the muscles and the physical body to relax. Now to come out of this pose very gently as you inhale, we'll bring the head back round to the front, bringing the torso along with it. Nice and gently. Or turn back to facing you, or support the ankle and the knee and uncross the leg. And we'll twist to come into pigeon pose. So the left leg is bent. I'm doing the opposite of you, the right leg straight. Check that the kneecap of your straight leg is facing down. And very gently come down into a pose. So if you prefer not to practice this yoga pose today, you can come into eye of the needle pose on your back. And then pausing here. So remember, we shouldn't feel any discomfort in the knee, so pushing away the heel of your bent leg to help protect the knee, and playing about with the position to make sure you feel comfortable. And as always, starting with 3 slow breaths. And again, in this position, if you can, focus on expanding the breath into the back and the sides of the torso. So remembering the lungs are 3-dimensional. And encourage the whole of the body to soften and to relax. So remembering at any time, if you need to come out of this pose, you can do. And you can rest in child's pose or lying on your back, just to rest before we come into the next pose. Now drawing your attention to your physical body, observing, where do you feel this stretch? Do you feel a stretch more on the outside hip of your bent leg or on the front of your straight leg? You may also feel a stretch around the lower back. Just take a moment just to observe what you're feeling. Do you feel you could spend a long time in this pose? Or are you already ready to come out? So as we're coming into the last minute, listen to your own body and only do what feels comfortable for you. So staying as you are, taking your time, slowly coming out of the pose, coming into table. Or you can go deeper by stretching the arms up overhead. So remember to listen to how the stretch feels today, not what you were doing yesterday or what you would like to do. Just learning to listen to your own body, and listening to any limitations you may have. Now focus on taking a few slow breaths for the last few breaths in this pose. Encourage the whole of the body to soften and to relax. Now we're very slowly. So to bend the arms, support the weight of the body, gently come up. Bring the weight onto the hip of your bent leg, bending your straight leg and supporting the leg. Or gently rock the legs from side to side just to relax the muscles before we do all of the same positions on the other side. So coming back onto the pillow, if you prefer to sit on a pillow, bending now your right knee. And bringing in your blocks, so the toes pointing up to the ceiling. So taking a deep breath in, and on your exhale gently coming down, so checking that your sitting bones are staying on the ground, that your hip isn't lifting up. And now remember, the more you practice this pose or this yoga video, the more the body will soften and open with time and patience. And you'll notice that you can deepen and relax. So as always, focusing on the breath and starting with 3 slow deep breaths. Encourage the whole of the body to soften and to relax. The more you practice, the more the body will open, and the deeper you'll feel into each pose. On the end of your 3rd exhale, you're focusing on what you feel in this pose. Where do you feel the stretch? And how does it feel compared to the other side of the body? Does one side feel more open than the other? So keep using the physical body and the breath to distract the mind from thoughts and conversations. In the last minute in this pose, just observing if you'd like to slowly come out, if you feel you'd like to go deeper, or would you like to stay as you are? A last few breaths, really try and expand the lungs in all directions. On your next breath in now, very slowly starting to blink open the eyes. Very gently pushing into the mat, support the weight of the body. Tucking under the chin, slowly coming up. Support the leg, draw the leg in to the center and gently lean back just to relax the back. And we'll support the outside of the knee and the ankle of your right leg to come into half Gomukhasana. So staying as you are. If you feel you'd like to go deeper, we can bend the opposite leg and then just pause here. And now focusing on the breath. Take 3 slow, deep breaths in. And as you exhale, tell yourself to completely relax, making the exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. And then draw your attention to your physical body. Where do you feel the stretch? Does this feel any different from the other side with the other leg on top? Does it feel more relaxing? More of a deeper stretch? Now coming into the last minute, just observing how you're feeling. Would you like to stay as you are? Would you like to slowly uncross the legs and come out of this pose and relax for a few moments? Or would you like to go deeper by bringing the forearms on the thighs or the hands on the floor into a gentle forward fold? So remembering to be present, that each side of the body may be different. So listen to what feels comfortable at the moment, not what you did in the past or what you'd like to do. So inhaling and exhaling, always just through the nose if you can. Encourage the physical body and the mind to soften and to relax. Well, very slowly we'll start to straighten the bottom leg if both knees are straight, and then support the ankle and the knee and bring the sole of the foot onto the ground. So again, I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see. So hugging now with the opposite arm, so you're hugging the right knee with the left arm, with the left leg straight, and we're looking over the right shoulder. So trying to sit up nice and tall, but relaxing the shoulders down the back. And as always, starting with 3 really slow, deep breaths. Extending the exhalation longer and slower than your inhale. And observe if it's easy or more challenging to deepen the breath in a spinal twist. Just observing in your physical body how it feels. So spinal twists help to stimulate the digestive organs. So it's very good for improving your digestion. Now focusing for the last few breaths on what you feel in this pose. Do you notice any differences from one side to the other? So again, we'll be a shorter amount of time in this pose than the previous poses. So the last few breaths. So really try and encourage the whole of the body to soften and to relax with the breath, inhaling and exhaling just through the nose. And now as you inhale, very, very slowly come back round to the center. I'm going to turn so I'm the same as you again. Support the ankle and the knee, will uncross the leg, bending both knees, and just gently rock the knees from side to side, just for a moment. And then we'll come into pigeon on the other side. So again, you're doing the opposite as me. So you have the right knee bent with the left leg straight. Checking that the kneecap is facing down, we'll take a breath in, and as you exhale, coming either to rest on the forearms or resting completely flat down onto the ground, whichever stage you're at today. And take 3 slow breaths in your own time. So while you're deepening the breath, just checking that the weight is evenly distributed in the hips, that you haven't got all of the weight on your bent leg. And now focusing on the physical body, allowing the breath after the 3rd exhale to follow its natural rhythm. And observe any differences from the side of the body to the other. So remember not to criticize, but to keep encouraging your attention to the physical body or the breath, to allow thoughts and conversations to gently pass by. And remember, if you need to come out of this pose at any time, always listen to your own body. And I'll leave you to relax just for a few more breaths. So observing if you'd like to stay as you are, or if you'd like to come out, or if you feel you naturally deepen. And by deepening, you can straighten the arms up overhead. So remembering it isn't important that what you do on one side, you do on the other. It's important to stay present. Listen to your own body. So coming into the last minute, observing if you'd like to stay as you are, if you'd like to come out of the pose, or if you'd like to go deeper. Now observing how is your mind. Have you naturally gone back to your thoughts and conversations? If you have, always be kind to yourself. Just acknowledge the thoughts. Thank yourself for noticing. And then allow them to very gently drift by. Drawing your attention once more to either your physical body or the breath. The last final breaths. When you're ready, on your next breath in, start to very gently bring your hands back underneath you, supporting the weight of the body, and then slowly come up, bringing the weight on the hip of your bent leg. And we'll gently come out of the pose and rock the knees from side to side, relaxing the legs, relaxing the hips. And we can straighten the legs and give them a little wiggle, or walk out the legs. Now bringing the legs to the side. Take your time, and we'll straighten one leg and the other, pushing away the heels just to encourage the legs and the hips to soften and to relax, and then we'll gently lower all the way down onto the abdomen. Untucking the toes, we'll come into 3 Cobras. So as you inhale, just lifting the chest and chin off of the mat, and as you exhale, gently lowering down. Inhale again, lifting up, and exhale very gently lower. Just one more. Inhale, gently lifting up, and exhale, gently lower. This time we'll inhale, lift up, and bring the weight onto the forearms, so the elbows under the shoulders, palms facing down. You can either relax down into the pose, or you can actively lift up. If you have any discomfort in the lower back, very gently lift the pelvic bone off of the ground, only if it feels comfortable. So take a moment and find a comfortable position, gently closing the eyes, and now we'll pause here. So as always, taking 3 slow breaths in your own time, trying to expand the lungs in all directions. And tell yourself to mentally relax. Observe, how does it feel breathing in this position? Can you deepen the breath easily? Does it feel restricted? So on the end of your third exhale, allow your breath to follow its natural rhythm. And then focus on what you feel in this pose. So again, at any time, if you feel you need to come out of the pose, just come and lay completely on your abdomen and turn your head to one side. So you're going to spend slightly less time in this pose compared to the previous poses. But it's still important to focus on what you feel. Do you feel a stretch in the lower back? So always listening to what feels better for you. Now to come into the last minute, you have 3 options. You can either stay as you are. If this is enough for you, you can gently lower down flat on the mat. And only if it feels comfortable, you can lift up into seal. So checking that there's a slight bend in the elbows so the arms aren't locked. The chin roughly parallel to the floor. And then just pausing here. Take a couple of really slow, deep breaths, expanding the lungs in all directions. And we'll take one more breath in, and as you exhale, gently coming down. Whichever position you're in will come to lay flat, completely onto the ground, so resting either the chin or the forehead onto the back of the hands. And then we'll slide the hands by the side of the chest, tuck under the toes and come up into child's pose. So gently stretching the back in the other direction in a very gentle forward fold. Just resting here. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. On your next breath in now, we'll inhale, come into table to come into one cat-cow breath. So on your next breath in, we'll lower the abdomen, looking to where you can see. And as you exhale, draw the abdomen in and up around the upper back. We'll inhale, come into a neutral position, checking the hips are above the knee. We'll walk the hands one space forward and lower onto the forearms. Take a breath in. And as you exhale, walk the elbows, keeping the elbows away. We'll hold each elbow and lower to where it feels comfortable. In Anahata or melting heart. You can use a block or a pillow to rest your forehead on if it feels comfortable. So very important in this pose to keep the shoulders in line, so we do this by keeping the elbows in line. And as always, take 3 slow breaths. Try and expand the lungs as much as you can in all directions. And observe how it feels to deepen the breath in this pose. Really slow down the exhalation. And when you come to the end of your third exhale, start to draw your attention to the physical body and observe where you feel this stretch. So we're going to be spending less time in this pose today. So observing if you'd like to stay here for the final few breaths, if you'd like to go deeper, or if you're already ready to come out of the pose. So just 1 or 2 more slow breaths. Try and expand the lungs in all directions. Encourage the body to completely relax. On your next breath in, now very slowly start to lift the chest. Now make your way back into child's pose. Again in a very subtle forward fold, gently stretching the back in the other direction and just pausing here. So you can either have the knees together or the knees slightly apart. And the arms either up overhead, stretching around the upper back, or by the side of the body. Just 1 or 2 more slow breaths. On your next breath in, now slide the hands in front of the knees, push into the ground, very gently come up to sitting. Or bring the legs to the side of the body, shuffling along the mat, and then take your time and come down to laying on your back. Or draw one knee into the chest and then the other. And then prepare to come in. To Shavasana, so separating the feet, either the distance of the hips or the edges of the mat. If you need to rock from side to side, you can do, hugging the hips and the arms out to the side of the body. Letting go now of any control you may have had over the breath. Letting go of any thoughts that come into your mind. The last few breaths in this pose, just allow your body to soften and relax. Now on your inhale, as you exhale, very gently start to wiggle the fingers and toes, bending the knees. And then we'll draw the knees into the chest and rock from side to side, massaging the lower back. And then rock completely onto your right hand side. Rest there for a moment. And then take your time and find a comfortable sitting position. So the spine nice and tall, relaxing the shoulders down the back. If you prefer to sit on a pillow or a block, you can do. It's always important after your yoga practice to take time to observe how you're feeling. How is your physical body? How is your breath? And how is your mind? Always remember to thank yourself for dedicating time to you and your own health and well-being. And we'll finish with Namaste. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please click the like button and leave me a comment below.